G'day gang, it's your old pal Uncle Ghastly here again with another episode of the Gummy Voice Show. And today we are going to do something very different from what I've normally been doing on this show, which has been just sort of free-form jamming, no sort of plan, no goal, just purely having fun organizing sound. And that's all music is the organization of sound. And today we're going to deal with a subject called apophenia. And what apophenia is when your brain makes connections between two things that are not related. There's no connection to these two things, and your brain finds a way to connect them. And I have a very acute apophenia because I used apophenia as a compulsion to sort of exercise obsessive thoughts from my skull when I was a kid. Ever since I was a kid, I used to use apophenia as a compulsion because it's something you can do without anybody seeing you do it. And basically, the upside of apophenia is it makes you extremely creative when you can come up with stories or ideas that connect two unrelated things. And you can sometimes make discoveries because things aren't as unrelated as they might seem. But there is a very dark side to apophenia as well, which for some people it causes them to create elaborate conspiracy theories that have no basis in reality. It's just like a couple of loose points, and they draw connections between them that only exist in their own mind. And as we have seen, that is very harmful to a functioning society if a lot of people start doing that. The other negative part of apophenia, which is why as a compulsion it didn't work for me as well as I would hope, is you can draw connections between things that aren't related in a way that makes your life worse. So, you know, it can, if you go down these dark trails sometimes, you can start drawing conclusions about your life and about the people around you that are not based in reality. They're your mind drawing connections between things, and it increases your suffering a lot because you're suddenly imagining people that you care about don't care about you, or are trying to, you know you're a burden to them and a big disappointment and all this stuff, and you got all this just from the way they said hello to you that morning, or they seemed distracted, because we're all distracted at times, and but you see them distracted, and they kind of gave you a cold hello when you passed them in the hall that morning, and your mind starts looking at other things, and it comes to a false conclusion that that person is angry at you or hates you or is upset with you because you've created basically a conspiracy theory in your own head about that person and their relationship to you, and you end up feeling terrible about yourself over something that's not true. That's just, someone, you pass a friend and you say hi, and they don't quite seem there, and they oh hi, and they go on their way, and you think, okay, what did I do? What did I do to elicit that response? And you start picking things that have nothing to do with anything. It was just, they're distracted. They have something else on their plate right now. But there's also a really great side to apophenia, which I touched upon, which is the creativity. And One of the things gummies have done to me, marijuana has done for me in the apophenia side of things, is it has increased my creative apophenia instead of my negative apophenia, because normally going to sleep is very hard for me when I don't have something to distract my mind. The non-gummy voice guy loves to chime in with his apophenia take on my day and why everything that happens wrong in the world is somehow my fault. And non-gummy voice, when I'm lying in bed at night trying to sleep, his apophenia is a lot different. Like one of the first things I wrote under the influence of marijuana was a little essay about Klingon Boob Windows. And I studied anthropology at McMaster University, and you see this boob window in their armor design, and all of the all the females have the boob window thing going on, right? And I was like, well, that's got to have some sort of cultural significance to them. And I ended up creating basically a story that explained why Klingon women have this boob window. And it was funny, but it worked. And that's the fun thing about apophenia, is when you can use it to take silly things and connect them together and create a story, which is how I would try to use it as a compulsion. I would sit there in class and if I had an obsessive thought come in, because remember how I said obsessive thoughts are very uncomfortable, and so I would look around the room and I'd see this thing and that thing and this thing over here and that, and I would create in my mind a story that, okay, this guy over here was walking to this and that, and I daydream this story based on whatever I could see in the room, like how is this person connected to this and that, with these pictures on the wall and stuff, and which is great when you're on your off time. It's not so good when you're supposed to be paying attention in class. And so my marks were all over the place as a kid. If it was a subject I loved, my marks would be very, very high in it, because I could distract myself from obsessive thoughts by pouring my mental energies into whatever it was. So creative things I loved: music, art, composition. In English class, I loved composition, but if it was things I didn't like, things that were not that interesting to me or I struggled with, then the compulsions would win out, and I'd use apophenia, and I'd basically be daydreaming. And there was a reason why I was daydreaming, and it was because the inside of my skull had become so torturous. I needed to get out. I needed an escape from my own mind, and daydreaming was doing it. And I'd really like to see in the future, if you have a kid that's gifted, because in those learning aptitude tests, I remember getting in trouble once from my dad, who was very frustrated that I was struggling so much with so many subjects and yet excelling so well in other subjects. And of course, my parents couldn't figure that out. I couldn't figure that out, really. I was just a kid. What do I know? But these learning aptitude tests would put me in the top 2 percentile, and my marks certainly didn't reflect that. In subjects I didn't like. In subjects I liked, they certainly did, but other subjects not so much. And it would have been nice if our oh, sorry, I'm losing track of it. That's one of the problems with gummies is you lose track of what the hell you're talking about pretty easy, which is also kind of fun in a creative sense. Like those jams I did, those totally freeform jams, they just go where they go, right? I have no control over where it's going. What was I talking about? Oh man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the things I hope that as a society we're becoming better at is recognizing these problems in children, because, like I said, I've suffered obsessive compulsive disorder from a young age, very, very young, and it was only because I was so bright that I had any chance of keeping it hidden. And this happens a lot with bright people and mental illness. Is it goes unrecognized because there's a trope of bright people being kind of off. You know, they're kind of quirky. You know, they're weird and eccentric and stuff like that, and we just accept that that's how they are, and we never think that, well, they're so bright, how could they have a mental disorder? Well, it's way more common than you think. The more complex the wiring, the more there is to go wrong. So I'm hoping as a society we are getting to the point where we're starting to recognize that in children when they're struggling, and that we can start, because if we can start getting them help younger, if I could have gotten help younger, my life would have turned out probably very different. And that's not that I'm perfectly, I'm not happy with my mental illness, but I have, through therapy and especially now through legal marijuana, have come to make a certain peace with my life, the way it is. And there are some things in my life I just simply cannot imagine the universe without, such as my children or my boyfriend, or, you know, I don't want to imagine a life without them because they're all so awesome to my life, you know. I mean, I really lucked out with that, and my friends too. I have such amazing friends, I really do, and I've been missing them so much during this pandemic. So. What are we going to do about this apophenia? This video is a lot different than the other ones. For one, I'm starting with the Babble instead of finishing with the Babble, which I normally do. And it's because this is a very light subject. So it's very, very easy for me to do this video because it's not a when I get into other subjects, it's going to be a little harder. I have an art for this series of videos I'm making, and it will, I think I will have said what I need to say when I get to the episode on PTSD. That's going to be a really hard episode to make, though, so it's going to be the last one of this series, you know. I'm going to still make other videos of other types, but of this series where I'm advocating for mental health and marijuana, legal marijuana, the conclusion of this series, the finale, is going to be when I talk about PTSD and what marijuana has done for me for that. And that's going to be a hard one to work myself up to because it's a very difficult subject, and it feels like a raw wound. So it's not much fun to poke at. But this is apophenia, which, thanks to medical marijuana, using it, legal marijuana, I don't tend to, I still stay up at night with my mind racing and stuff like this, but Gummy Voice likes to take it into better territory than non-Gummy Voice does. Non-Gummy Voice always wants to take everything to the conclusion that I'm a complete waste of skin and shouldn't exist. And that's non-Gummy Voice, and Gummy Voice is like, nah man, you got problems, but who doesn't? And you've got things about you that are pretty swell too, so, you know. Anyways, so we're going to do the Apophenia. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to start today's jam not at my keyboards. We're going to start today's jam at my kitchen table, because Gummy Voice came up with an idea where we can both together play with Apophenia and have fun with it. And so you'll see in a moment why we're going to start at the kitchen table and not at the synthesizers. Okay, see you there. Okay, so here we are at the kitchen table. What the heck is this? This is an Apophenia Machine. And what it is a few years ago, I bought these card games things at a game swap. And one of them is a game called, what the hell is it called? I don't know, I can't read it. I don't have my reading glasses on. Let me go get my reading glasses and come back. All right, we're back. I swear to God, 90% of being old is going, where the fuck are my glasses? So anyways, I've got these cards. One is, what's that say? Quest for the Hazelwood. I don't know what that is. I haven't played this game. I just bought it. It was like $2, so I bought it. And the other is this deck of cards that I thought sounded neat, and it was only $1. And it's called Archetypes, and they're storytelling cards. And they've got like little pictures of things and just a word, and they've got numbers on them and phases of the moon and symbols, so you can interpret them in all sorts of ways. Let me shuffle those ones back up again, since we used them as an example. So what I'm going to do is we're going to tell a little story using these cards as points in the story. We've got them organized. There's some people, objects, places, conditions, and then just modifiers, things that can modify the cards. Now these archetype storytelling cards, you can take them literally, or it comes with these cards here that give you sort of what the cards could also be interpreted to mean, right? The archetypes thing, it's not a game so much. It's to help you create stories and whatnot. So let me reshuffle those ones now that I've messed them up. It's the Gummy Voice Show. Production values don't matter. So I'm going to shuffle. Okay. So we're going to start with people at a location with an object, and we'll put modifiers on them, and we'll just kind of go through pulling out elements of a story and then string them together, and it'll probably be really random, not make a lot of sense, and I'll probably curse myself for coming up with this idea, but Gummy Voice thought it would be a lot of fun. So I'm going to pull these story elements together, and I'll write them down in my book of ridiculously good ideas. And I'll write down, what's a basic overview of what's going on in our story. And then I am going to go back upstairs to my Geek Room studio, and I am going to score the soundtrack to this story that we're going to make with these cards in my head. Because this is a form of jamming a lot of musicians do, where you're not writing, like there's a spectrum between jamming and song crafting, right? And it's hard to tell when you're jamming and when you're song crafting at certain places along this spectrum. What I've been doing right now in this Gummy Voice show has been pure jamming. We're the far end of the spectrum. We have no structure or form or anything. What we're going to do now is going to be a little more structured, but still very random. And I'm going to compose, I'm going to create a story based on these cards in my head, and then I'm going to compose the soundtrack for this story using that's my dog Rocky, and I'm going to use my desert island setup, not the setup I'd be using if I was doing a gig where I had to compose music for a production. It's still gonna be jamming. It's not gonna be song crafting, but I'm going to have a story in mind to tell, and I'm going to try to express that story through improvisational music. And then I'm going to maybe if I feel like it, develop it more and see how far down the rabbit hole I can go with this story. And you can use this to create your own story too. And you can use the music that I create for my story if you need music if you think that some of it works with the story that you're creating, hey, then go ahead and use it. Everything on the Gummy Voice show I put in the public domain, because I'm using this show as a form of activism, and one of the things I'm very strongly in favor of is the public domain, and it has been under a lot of attack. And this year marks the first time in 20 years that things are going into the public domain in the United States, because basically because Sonny Bono was a shitty skier is what it gets. We can get into the long story of it, but that's not really the focus here. But basically because Sonny Bono killed himself in a tree, the last bit of pet legislature he worked on ended up getting passed, and we all have suffered because of that. Anyways, so let's get on with our story. Now that I've tried my best to explain what I'm going to do, let's start drawing cards. I'm going to put the camera on a tripod now. Okay, I think I've got it set up where you can see what I'm doing pretty good. Oh, Rocky. Rocky's trying to play with me while I'm doing this. Now he's bugging his sisters out. Okay, guys, I'm doing a thing here. I'm doing a show. Okay. So I think I've got this set up. You can see what I'm doing. So we're going to start our story with basically we're going to go on a little journey where I think the way we'll do this is we'll have a person with an object that at a place under a condition, and that person ends up meeting another person who has a thing, and he's okay. Oh my goodness, he sounds so vicious. Yes, I know. All right. So this. Okay, guys. I'm trying to do a show. Jeez. All right. So basically, okay. Here. Play with this instead. Zydeco's got a toy that he wants to have, and she won't let him have it, and so I had to distract him with something else. Okay, so we're going to start with a person and an object at a place, and we'll add modifiers here and there for my modifier things, and it's basically going to be like a hero's journey type story, right? Person meets a guy and they go on an adventure together. So who? All right, Rocky. Okay, so who is our first person? Well, let's see. Let's make sure these shuffled. Our first person is an apprentice. Oh, he's an apprentice. And he has water. Well, of course, that's not the thing. Let's give him something else. Water. All right. And a magic axe. He's got a lot of water and a magic axe, this guy. Oh, okay, the apprentice with his water and magic axe. And where does he live? He lives in the desert. Oh, okay, so that's why he's got all that water, eh? Because he's in the desert, eh? You gotta have water. Okay, see? There we go. So the story starts with our apprentice in the desert with lots of water. And somehow he will come into possession of a magic axe. Of a magic axe. So let's say he lives in a little village in the desert somewhere. All right. Now, what is he apprentice of? Well, let's go to this. Who's his master? Right? We'll go to these ones for his master. His master, or her master, could be or their master, is a seeker. The seeker. The seeker. What does the seeker mean? Well, let's see. The seeker. Where'd I put those other cards that told me what everything was? Oh, did I stick them in here? Okay, I found the cards. I accidentally shuffled them back into the people deck, so I've reshuffled everything. We have our apprentice with his water in the desert, and a magic axe. And he is the apprentice to the seeker. And what does it say about the seeker? What is the seeker? Let's see. Geez, where is he? There he is. The seeker. Truth, quest, absolutes, definitions, gaining wisdom and insight. Ooh. Actually, that's a pretty good thing to be an apprentice of if you're starting an adventure. So, the apprentice of the seeker somehow comes across a magic axe. Now, what are the conditions in this little desert village that he lives in? Well, let's see. Drought. There's a drought in the desert, of course, because, you know, how the hell else do you get a desert out of that, right? So, our apprentice in the desert during a drought, during a desert with a couple containers of water and a magic axe. There we go. All right, so there's there's our first person and where he is. Now, they say there are only, who was it, Tolstoy said there's only 2 stories. There's a stranger comes to town, or a person goes out on a journey. Well, we'll do both. The apprentice is about to go out on a journey, and it's because a person came to his town. And this person is a priest. So a priest comes to his town. Priest comes to the desert. And he has brought with him an object. Food, of course, because he's traveling. And magic armor. This priest has magic armor. So a priest comes to the desert with food and magic armor. And what is the modifier of this magic armor? The price is the modifier. What does that mean? The price. Diggity-diggity-doo. Water beast. Phantom of the void. Where the hell's the price? The price. Price, cost. Undesirable choices. The lesser of 2 evils. Everything has a price. A deal with the devil. Politics, or what these cards say for the price. So there is a price to be paid somewhere in there, and he's got this magic armor that has a price to it. All right, so we got 2 characters. So they have to go on a journey together. This apprentice and this priest who has come to the desert go on a journey together. All right, where do they have to journey to? I don't know why I keep shuffling. Probably because I'm a crappy shuffler, and so this is how I determine randomness. They head out on the road, of course, because you don't get too far without that. So they head out on the road, Magic armor price. I forgot to write that down. So they head out on the road they come to a bridge, and then they are still in the desert. There's a road and a bridge in the desert. Oh, wow. On the road to a bridge that's in the middle of the desert. Why is a bridge in the middle of the desert? Oops. Too many S's. All right, so our apprentice in the desert with some bags of water meets a priest with some food and magic armor, and they go on the road to a bridge in the desert. All right. What happens then? Well, they meet someone, right? They meet a fighter. Ah, I am a fighter. I'm mighty. Then they meet a fighter at the bridge. At the bridge. And this fighter has with him, what is he known for? He has a magic shield. We got a lot of magic stuff going on here. A fighter at the bridge with a magic shield. And what is a property of this magic shield? Let's go to our modifiers here. Well, our modifier is terminus. And what does it say on the terminus? Ending, final resolution, death, cessation, status. Pretty much exactly what you would think terminus means. So there's a terminus to his magic shield. I don't know what that means yet. Terminus. Modifying the shield. All right. So they meet up with this fighter on the road who's got all this stuff at a bridge in the middle of the desert. Where does the fighter come from? Let's find out, shall we? The fighter with the magic shield was from the swamp. Okay, swamp. Fighter from the swamp. What are we doing now? So he's from the swamp. What's it like at the swamp? Well, let's find out. There's storms. That's why he's out, because the swamp of storms. All right, so he's met with them. After this meeting with the fighter, our story moves to they journey to a magic pool. All right. And at this magic pool, they discover a sorceress. Haha! And let's modify the sorceress with one of these cards. What is she a sorceress? Sorceress. She is a poet, the sorceress. All right, at the magic pool. At the magic pool, they meet the poet, sorceress. Sorceress. All right. Yeah, I'm getting ideas. I'm getting some ideas here. So they meet the sorceress at the magic pool, and then what? She gives them we've already got magic armor. Let's find something else. We got a magic shield too, don't we? Do we? Yeah, magic shield. This isn't cheating because this game has no rules. Alright, this card, whatever it is what she gives them. A scroll of fire. Ooh, see, that's better than the other ones that we had. Scroll of fire. Ah, from the sorceress at the magic pool. Or maybe she has it. Maybe she doesn't give it to him. Maybe that's just what she has, right? She might have other things. It all depends on how this story ends up. But she tells them to go somewhere, right? Or somehow through their adventure with this poet priestess, they know where the next leg of their journey is, let's say. All right, so they go to the road. They're back on the road again, of course. And the road leads them to a city! Ha ha! Okay, the road to a city. That's the next journey. Next leg of their journey. I don't know how many of them going. Maybe they're all going. Maybe it's still just the apprentice on his own. Maybe it's a soul journey. I don't know. Haven't thought that far ahead yet. These are just the Apophenia points that we are putting into our journey. So they go to the city, and what are the conditions at the city? There's a famine. Ooh, not a good city. There's a famine at the city. At the city. And let's modify this city again with one of these modifier cards. The modifier card is the Tempest. There's a storm. 2. The Tempest. Well, let's see what it has to say about the Tempest in these cards here. A Tempest. Where is it? The Tempest! Chaos, disorder, destruction, unopposable force, nature reclaiming the land. Well, that could be the famine then, right? That's a theme for the famine. So we got the Tempest. Oh, hey, I just noticed there's other things written on these cards. Fingerbolt, Wasting Curse, Fire Touch. Oh, I guess there's spells associated. See, I haven't played this card game, so this Quest for Hazelwood, so I have no idea how to play it. I'm just doing this. I have a group of friends that I get together with, and we tabletop game, but 2020 and 2021 is not looking much better so far. Okay, so the Tempest is the modifier for the city. We got that part. All right. Hope I've been writing all this stuff down well enough that I can make sense of it later, because I've already forgotten what we're doing. So, they go to the city at the famine. Now, who do they meet at the city? Wolves. There are wolves at the city. There are wolves at the city. And who else is at the city? A ranger. A ranger with a wolf sidekick, maybe. I don't know. Ranger. There's a ranger who is also at the city. And want to put a modifier on this ranger too? Sure, why not? Air. Air modifier on the ranger. And what does air symbolize in these cards? Well, let's see. Air. Purity. Clarity, intellect, duplication. Ooh. Interesting. So the wolves and the ranger at the city are who they meet next. And does the wolf have an object, or the ranger have an object? Sure, why not? What does the ranger have? Well, just an ordinary axe. Ordinary axe. somehow plays a part in this story. Ordinary axe. Not magic like the apprentice's axe. Okay. Well, that's going pretty good so far. So what have we got? We got an apprentice in the desert with some water and a magic axe, comes into possession of a magic axe, ends up meeting, and he's apprentice to the seeker. I forgot to write that. Apprentice to the seeker. So during a drought in the desert, this apprentice has some water, comes into possession of a magic axe, meets a priest who has food, magic armor. There is a price associated with this magic armor. They go on the road, or he goes on the road. Okay, come on. We're doing a story here. So they go on the road to the bridge. And in the middle of the desert, they find a bridge. And at this bridge is a fighter with a magic shield. And the fighter hails from the swamp, and the swamp has storms. And the shield terminus is its modifier. There is something terminal about this magic shield. From there, whichever one of these heroes, maybe all three, maybe just one, they make a journey to a magic pool where there is a poet sorceress with a scroll of fire. From there, they go to a city that is suffering a famine and a tempest. There are wolves at the city and a ranger with an axe, and air is the modifier to the ranger. Okay. So at this city, that's what happens next. Maybe now would be a good place to put some sort of climax into this story of ours, right? We've gone on a journey from the desert to a city, and at this city, their quest is reaching its conclusion. And who is it? Who is the boss of this story? Who is the boss of this little dungeon crawl here? They meet a caregiver. The caregiver. Okay, maybe that's not the boss then. And what type of person is the caregiver? A griffin? Caregiver with a griffin. Or a caregiving. Oh, let's look up what caregiver has written for it on the points that you should contemplate. Caregiver, duty, responsibility, care for another, security, recovery, health, sacrifice, martyrdom. Okay, so this might not be a literal caregiver. This could be a modifier for something else. Yeah, there's a martyrdom, sacrifice. Yeah, that comes into play with a lot of things that we talked about, right? There was the price and all that sort of stuff. So that might not be an actual person. It could be. We'll see where the story goes. I don't think that's going to be our boss. Who's our boss? The judge. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, the judge will be the boss. The judge. The judge. Bum, 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 bum. What is the judge? Or what's the association? He's a giant. He's a giant. He's a giant, this judge. Okay. So our giant judge. So the caregiver could be like a side quest, or it could be the price that they paid that's been sort of alluded to through all this. And they got to the judge, and he's a giant. And let's put a modifier on the judge so we know what kind of judge he is. The Grail. Okay. The Grail. So that's why they've come here. The judge has the Grail. Or is the Grail the thing? Where did I put those things? All right, Rocky. Thank you. We've all heard enough from you for today. I bet you I shuffled them back into one of these decks. So that's the kind of thing I do. So this is a big climax to our story. They meet the judge, who is a giant, and the Grail. So let's look up what are the things it tells us about that. Where the heck did I put those cards? Did you see where I put those cards? I don't see it. Oh, here they are. Ha! I found them. Okay, so what's it say about the judge? The judge, man. The judge. I can't see it on here. The guide, the jester. Be nice if they put these in alphabetical order. Or maybe they did. The fox, the knight, no, they didn't. Where the hell does it say the judge? It's got to be on here somewhere. Unless I'm missing one of these cards. Fool, I don't see the judge. Oh, there he is, the judge. Okay, what does the judge mean? Justice, consequence, judgment, seriousness, lack of humor, absolute definitions of right and wrong, and dogma. And what is the Grail? The Grail, where is the Grail? The Grail, object of desire, goal, quest, drive, envy, lust, pure desire. Ha ha ha. So that looks like a good climax right there. So they're going to have to do something about the judge. The judge is what they've come to confront. And now let's deal with the aftermath. An oasis. Oh, it looks like they might have won. Maybe, I don't know. Oasis is where our story ends, at an oasis, but let's put a modifier on the oasis to see, has our story really ended, and has it ended well? Seems to have. Started off with the desert and drought, and now we're at an oasis. Maybe it has. Who knows? The staff. The staff. What's the staff mean? I don't know. Let's find out. The staff. The staff. Where the hell is the staff? There it is. Staff. Strength, support, assistance, aid, friend, external power. Oh my goodness, you sound so rough. You sound so mean. But you're not, are you? You're a sweetheart. You're just very vocal when you play. So there's our story. That's where it ends. At an oasis with the staff. Maybe there's a part 2 we'll do. Maybe if I have fun doing this and nobody gets hurt, then yeah, we could do it. We could do a part 2 sometime. But anyways, that's going to be the story. So now, I don't think I'll do it this episode. This is going on kind of long. This took a long time. We'll do it in another episode. I will use a very minimal that desert island setup of mine to write a soundtrack for this story, because this is a form of jamming that a lot of musicians do, where you sit at your instrument and you just go on a journey. You write a lot of background music to a movie that's playing in your head, and in what you're playing is, for you, perfectly synced. Like you're hitting every little beat of the movie that only exists in your head. But it's a type of jamming that I'm very self-conscious about, because it probably doesn't sound good to outside listeners who aren't watching the same movie that's taking place in your head. In your head, you're hitting every beat. Every time something happens, you've got the perfect musical accompaniment for it. But to somebody who's not part of that music, it might just sound like absolute chaos. So this is a type of jamming that I have always been very self-conscious about, and I've done it since a young age. And I can remember doing this type of jamming once, sitting at the piano when I was a teenager. Oh my gosh, you guys. When I was a teenager, I was doing this kind of jamming, and I thought I had the house to myself, and my dad was home, and walked in while I was doing it. And honest to God, to me it felt like he had just walked in on me masturbating. Like I was so embarrassed, because this is a type of jamming that every musician does this. There's nothing wrong with doing this type of jamming, but it's very, very personal, because only I have access to the story in my head. So the music that I create doing this kind of jamming probably sounds just very chaotic and nonsensical to people who don't have access to that story. And one of the things Gummy Voice thought would be fun would be to do this, but the problem is I have trouble remembering things under a gummy. So to do this and write it all down, so that I can have a story in point form, just like this, right? Like here's what I've written down. Apprentice to the seeker in the desert during a drought, lots of water, possession of a magic axe. Priest comes to the desert with food and magic armor. There is a price associated with this armor. On the road to a bridge in the middle of the desert, they find a fighter at the bridge with a magic shield. Terminus is associated with this shield. This shield is associated with endings. He comes from the swamp of storms. And that leads them to, from there, whoever's going on this journey, I don't know if it's the apprentice or the priest yet together, or is the apprentice going on his own, or does the fighter join the apprentice and follow him? I don't know yet. I haven't figured that far out. Anyways, the next step in the journey is a magic pool with a poet sorceress and a scroll of fire. Then they take a road to the city, and there's a famine at this city. And the city is a tempest. It's chaotic. It's and there's wolves at the city. Now maybe these aren't actual wolves; these could be figurative wolves at this point, right? You don't have to interpret these things literally. You can use them figuratively. And there's a ranger at the city who's associated with qualities of air. I can't remember what those were now, but they were on the cards. I can look them up. And they have an ordinary axe, not a magical one. There's a caregiver and a griffin associated with that caregiver. Anyways, at this city is where they have their final confrontation. Whatever kicked off this journey that they're going on, it has to do with this giant, the judge, and the Grail. So that's the climax. That's a pretty good climax, I think. And when the story is over, we're left at an oasis with the staff. So yeah, I think I can do something with that. I think there's something I can do with that, and you can do something with it too, because we can all play with this. You can create your own story based on this, and one of the things is, while I'm telling this story musically, what I play musically and what you interpret won't necessarily be the same thing, because you don't have access to the story that'll be playing in my head. Only I have access to that. So I will put the music up I'll record very, very simple jams, and I'll put that up. And that music you can use if you want to do stuff with this little story we've created together. Then, and you want to use some of my music for that, then I would be fine with that, because all this stuff is public domain that I am doing. So there's our story, and that we are going to use Apophenia, all these unconnected things that I've just randomly drawn out of a deck of cards with no planning or anything. I just, I gotta hold those definition cards separately. I keep shuffling them in. I gotta remember to keep those separate. So I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm no doubt while I'm going on this. So anyways, I think that's the end of today's episode. There's no actual musical jamming today. We jammed with our imaginations instead. We have created the bones for a story here. Just the idea. This isn't a story, this is just the idea. And nobody owns ideas. Ideas are free. You can't copyright an idea. You can only copyright the expression of an idea. So another reason why this is in the public domain, because this is just an idea at this point. This is no story here, and everyone is free to use any of this as they want. And that's why the public domain is important. Anyways, there we go. We got 2 pages. We got a nice little story. It seems to, I like that climax that we came up with the judge. That sounds pretty climactic right there. Anyways, so there we go. That's today's episode of the Gummy Voice Show. Next episode, I will play you some music from this story. I don't know if we'll get through the whole story in one go. Maybe I'll just write songs for different areas of the story where I see the story going, and I'll share that with you. And then maybe when I've got the music all done, maybe then I will draw some graphics to go along with the story, and I will put my version of the story up. And if you're a person who likes to draw, maybe after I've done the music, you might have your story that you'd like to put up and use the music from, and that's cool. I'm fine with that. Anyways, thanks for tuning in tonight. This has been a long one. We're really going a lot of time on this. So yeah, next episode we'll be back to some music.